It's the BIE's formal Christmas card.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
and when you have a closer look at it, it's actually all the icons from World Expos, the sort of acknowledged icons. And every time I look at it, I think to myself, we could have had Paradigm up there. Not to be. Anyway, so ladies and gentlemen, we're back in another series of this, and Lawrie, potential for Queensland was by looking at the River Edge information sheet, because there is a really interesting story behind that as far as longitudinal planning goes. And it's a really interesting story, and I think it also reinforces the fact that Salou wanted the greenest expo ever, and Queensland was able to deliver that at the time. And I think that really portrays well into our ability to deliver on a garden expo in a dry-ish state. I think you'd agree, Andrew, that really has great potential to boost the exposure and profile of Queensland. So, Lawrie, over to you in the sticky mud of the Brisbane River.
Okay. Well, when the expo was well under construction, and behind me there's a view there of the boardwalk, in mid-construction. You look down from the boardwalk, and twice a day at the low tide, you found this large expanse along the expo site of mud and debris, and it was the sort of thing you didn't want people from around Australia, around the world, to have right in the foreground of their view as they looked across the river from Expo to the CBD. So all sorts of things were considered, how we could sort of modify this environment and make it appropriate. But I think was the best thing was to go with nature, what nature would have done. And it was fortunate at the time because mangroves had been very much germinated in the northern parts of Moreton Bay. And I knew that because we used to go over there to Beachmere. And the whole of the frontage there was just little seedling mangroves, about 300 millimetres high, just by the million there. So I thought, right, they're the ideal thing to put into the Brisbane River. The same species that you find in the Brisbane River was germinating there. So they're protected, you can't touch them, mangroves, but we did get permission, of course, from the Department of Environment to relocate thousands of them from Beachmere to the riverbank. And here we are, you can see them being planted there. So they just loved being in there, put them in and they just grew. They were put in maybe 3 years ahead of opening day. And during that time, they grew up and to basically the level of the boardwalk there. So they really performed very well in that you could not see the intertidal mudflats. And they're still there. Some of them are still there today. They were there. A lot of them in 2018 were taken out when the boardwalk was reconstructed and expanded out towards the water. But there's still a few here and there along there that remain from the planting in '83. So a lot of people used to say they're natural, but no, they were actually relocated from Beachmere to the Brisbane River.
To the Primary Industries Pavilion, from recollection, wasn't it, Andrew?
Well, the boardwalk was just below the Primary Industries, and as you came from the Primary Industries, there was a very popular route down to the river's edge, and it was very well done. It was and I enjoyed today walking along that river edge as opposed to walking up in the centre of South Bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Peter, Matter was also a very strong sculptural piece that was along that whole edge of the Brisbane River, and that's what I remember most fondly from Expo. Sort of making my way home from one of the restaurants or bars and looking at that beautiful scenery that was the river edge at night time after the sun had gone down. Now, to link it back into our more major theme in relation to the Garden Expo or World Garden Expo, again, Lawrie, it was really fulfilling Sir Lou's dictate to you that you have or provide, the world's greenest expo up until that date. And I think that's it's a fundamental that you obviously took to heart. And when you have a closer look at it, it's actually all the icons from World Expos, the sort of acknowledged icons. And every time I look at it, I think to myself, we could have had Paradigm up there. Not to be. Anyway, the Sky Needle doesn't quite cut the mustard as far as architectural excellence goes. All right.